everyone, this is Pheasant Tail Nymph, and this is going to be one of those flies that I'm putting in a giveaway box. And thank you all for the support you're giving to me. And let's start with tying. So first of all, I'm going to show you materials. I made a video about that, short video, and then I'm going to explain as I tie, I'm going to explain why I use those materials that I'm using on this fly. So without any further ado, let's just hop into tying. So for the hook, I'm going to use size 14 jig because it's quite universal size and it is inverted underwater, and that's what I want. For the weight, I'm going to use pink, copper or silver bead in size 3. For the thread, I'm going to use black thread in size 8-0 because it's quite strong and I can lay it flat, and that's very important to create less bulk. For the ribbing material, I'm going to use gold, silver or copper wire depending on the bead color. For the body, I'm going to use olive pheasant tail. And finally, for the thorax, I'm going to use iced up prism in peacock color, and I will mix it with some CDC. So I presented those materials in order that I'm going to tie them. Obviously hook goes first, then you mount the bead. In this case you have 14 size hook and 3mm bead. Obviously you can use smaller or larger bead depending on the water depth or speed, and even depending on the thickness of tip that you have to use. I almost never go over 4mm because it's not competition legal, and even though I'm not competing anymore, I hope that I'll start again. So I just tie them. I do everything competition legal because I think it's better than to just use like little rock that's like 5.5mm or something like that. That just doesn't it doesn't feel right, to be honest. So the thread, as I said, is 8-0, but the size is not so important as the fact that it lays flat, as you can see here. So the flat thread will create less bulk if you use it smart, as opposed to the round one that you cannot do that, and it definitely creates more buildup if you take the same size, although those sizes are definitely not something that you can rely on firmly. So I'm gonna start this fly a little bit unusual, and it's going to be reverse Jam Hitch, and as you can see I'm going backwards with a tag end, and then I'm just gonna pass it over with thread, couple of wraps, and you can feel it, you can release the pressure into your left hand, and then just transfer your hands, keep the pressure as you do that. And now, in order not to spin the thread around, keep the low pressure as you go around and then pull towards you. Keep the low pressure, pull towards you. Keep the low, pull towards you. Now it's obviously the time to remove this tag end. Because I'm using silver bead, I don't have I'm using pink bead, I don't have a pink wire, otherwise I would be using the pink one. I'm going to use silver wire. This is size extra small, I think, because when I compare it to the one that has label on it, it's definitely smaller, and so lower than small, it's thinner than small, it's just, I guess, extra small. I'm just gonna go a little bit more, but I'm gonna leave a little gap over here, and then look at this. I'm gonna catch, spin the bobbin counterclockwise just a little bit, so my thread jumps to the left, catch the wire, and then I'm gonna pull up, so no pressure, pull up. Let me go. No pressure, pull up. No pressure, and now pull towards you because I'm reversing everything. Pull towards you, no pressure, pull towards you, and I'm doing this to prevent spinning materials around the hook shank. Now, one more wrap. You can see that I stopped here. Now, with flat thread, I'm gonna catch pheasant tail with just 2 wraps. So take approximately 5, maybe 6, I don't know, barbs of the pheasant tail, make them perpendicular to the rachis, and as you pull on, you will see that you have those tips aligned. So while keeping the tension between thumb and forefinger and index finger, just pull the feather away. That should leave you with aligned tips, but if they're not perfectly aligned, it's not so important. It's more important that you have good quality pheasant tail, that it doesn't break. Now, when it comes to size of the tail, you can use it longer, but I prefer to do it half of the shank, so maybe like this, relatively short. And as I was saying, again, spin the bobbin counterclockwise with just 1 and 2, and this is one on the top of another. I'm going to catch these couple of barbs. Now flatten the thread a little bit more and then proceed towards the bead. Now the reason why I caught these here with just 2 wraps is that I'm not applying too much pressure when I'm mounting and wrapping pheasant tails, so it doesn't it's not so important that you cinch it down so hard. It's not going to move anywhere. So in the opposite direction, then, so this thread was going clockwise. If you look to your hook from the front towards the rear, it's clockwise like this, and the pheasant tail goes the opposite direction, because I want my wire to go clockwise, same as the thread. So when I'll show you when I come to the wire. Now I'm using olive pheasant tail here because I just love olive flies. I think fish are always crazy about those, and it's very universal color. Most of my favorite flies are in some shades of green, olive, whatever. Now I'm gonna show you how I catch this here. So go across and then in front, and then again across, in front. That's plenty. So first one that goes across is catching the material. The one around the shank is locking one. Do it twice. Now you may be wondering what's happening with a black tag here. It's not hotspot, yeah? So I want to make sort of hotspot with wire. So what I'm doing here, don't go over the tails. So first wrap goes directly over the thread, and then in tight wraps cover that thread, cover this thread tag, and you have yourself a nice shiny hotspot here. And then in usual manner, just wrap your ribs towards the bead. And now it's time to cinch down with your ribs, because this is what is protecting your fly. Now notice the direction of me pulling the wire. It's towards you. In order to secure the wire, I'm going to pull towards you the thread as well. It's the same direction. So this is 3 reps, that's it, not more than that. Now I'm gonna go back, and I've created a slight flat layer over here. Now while I'm leaving my bobbin to counterspin and flatten the thread, you can do it yourself by counterspinning the bobbin, of course, but because I talk I have time, so I'm going to allow my bobbin to just spin around and flatten the thread like so. Now while I'm doing that, I want to explain to you why I want to use this CDC feather and not this one. Now can you tell what is the difference between this one and this one? Not the size, it is the richness of those barbs. Those barbs are much fuller, much more denser than are those in my right hand near the bead. So that's why I'm going to use this one for some dry fly, because I want to utilize the richness and quality of this CDC feather. I don't want to get it to waste for nymph, and these relatively sparse barbs are going to be perfect for the pheasant tail legs. You want to keep those legs sparse, you don't want to slow down the sink rate of your fly. Also, I'm going to use some peacock ice dub, and it's going to be very sparse amount, as you can see, and by this time the thread should be flat. And let's check this out. Yep, you can see that it goes much wider. So as I'm doing that, I'll just position my nail under the thread like so, and then I'm gonna go with my needle through it and split it. That's quite an easy thing to do. Now this is too much, I want less, so I'm just gonna take away a little bit by little bit, and I'm going to create a relatively thin noodle here. You want thin noodle because you want to put between those two strands of thread, you want to put some CDC, and if you have too thick dubbing noodle, it's quite easy. You can't spin it hard enough with this thread. You can do it with GSP, of course, to keep those barbs in place. So what I want to do now, I want to use paper clip or something like that, and I want to insert my CDC inside of it. I'm going to show you that in a second. Now notice how much CDC I have here. It's quite little. It's literally less than the dubbing I have, so that means that I'm going to remove some dubbing here. I want this noodle to be as long as the CDC, so quite short now. I'm going to pull it down so I can just catch it with thread, and then I'm going to pull it up. Now the beginning part here, the first part, can be without CDC, but the rear part that goes to the front is actually going to be near the bead, and it should be connected to the bead. So I don't want to have some like sort of empty space. Now I'm gonna spin my bobbin in any way you like, because it's not so important now. And as I do it, I'm gonna help it with my fingers, like so, spinning it the same way. Or you can just let it be loose and spin your bobbin like this, and it will spin your thread. Now when you see that your thread is spun nicely and that you have a nice dubbing noodle and CDC, now you can proceed to tying the thorax. This takes much less time if you tie it yourself than the time I need while explaining, obviously, because I do it much slower. Now you need to whip finish the fly, and you're almost done. So again, with a flat thread, whip finish your fly, and I'm going to explain in one of those videos in the future where you can actually see the benefits of flat thread while whip finishing the fly. Now this is one whip finish and it's quite enough. You can do two, or you can just maybe add some super glue on it. Now what is important is to take the minimal amount of dubbing that you used for the thorax and create the thinnest noodle possible that's long enough to go around the hook shank, the shank maybe twice. Now catch it with whip finishing tool like so, and then cross it here, cross your thread here, and start whip finishing. Obviously now you know why I need thin noodle, because with thick noodle I wouldn't be able to make secure knot. I'm gonna tighten the knot slowly, okay, without breaking the thread, and I've hidden the thread. I have some extra shine in the thorax. You can shorten those legs, but I don't want to, because the slightest of current is going to move those legs, because they are so sparse, as you can see, they're not going to slow down your sink rate of your fly too much, if at all. And you got like two things at once. You got nice fly that sinks nicely, and you got yourself quite lively fly that's going to catch you many fish. This is literally my favorite fly, as I said. I love it so much, and that is why I'm going to give this fly away. in my giveaway box. So guys, hope you like this video. Hope you learned something new. If you did, please, I would like to hear that in the comment section below. And see you next week.